All right, good afternoon. This is Jeremy Cranstaff coming to you live with coffeewithjeremy.tv. Really excited to be here and talking with all of you today. So sorry we're running a little bit late. Had to resolve those technical difficulties. Everybody knows that's what happens when you're going live. This is a live broadcast, so we want to encourage you to join, tell your friends, share it on Facebook, Twitter. You can use the hashtag coffeewithjeremy and submit your questions via Twitter, or you can type them into the chat box right on your screen there if you're watching us live today. Really great to have everybody on, and I'm really excited to be joined today by Julie Harris. Julie, as I described it in our description today, is a gem in the state of Nebraska, who is really focused on increasing and tapping into the wisdom of the community to increase cycling and walking across the state of Nebraska. Julie's the executive director of NEBA, the Nebraska Bicycling Alliance, and we had the opportunity to work with Julie and her team in several different fashions. So the first way is we facilitated a retreat for Julie back in November around her creating the organization for the strategic plan for the organization, or for NEBA, and really looking at what she's doing. It really just looks like, Julie, you're having lots of success there. And so then the other way that Julie works with S&G is around the Walkable Communities Project, which we will be doing another round with Brian Coyle next week on. And so Julie's been doing some collaborative training delivery and best practices support on that project as well. So Julie, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Very excited. So start the conversation off for us, Julie, because you know coffeewithjeremy.tv is all about collaboration, and we always look at ways that our clients and our colleagues are doing collaboration in their organization. But let's take a step back first and have you tell us, what is NEBA and why does it fulfill the role that it does in Nebraska? So what's NEBA?
Yeah, so NEBA is the Nebraska Bicycling Alliance. We started out thinking we were the NBA, Nebraska Bicycling Alliance, but then there were too many bad NBA commissioner jokes about my job. So I don't know if you can create your own nickname or not, but that's what we did. So now we're NEBA. And we're the only statewide bicycle advocacy organization in the state. We are only about 3 years old. We started out in 2013 with just an all-volunteer board, trying to do the work as volunteers, and recognize pretty quickly that our capacity was really limited by our volunteer efforts. And so we took the bold step in April of 2015 to hire an executive director, and that's me. And we've been sort of making progress ever since, slowly but surely, and trying to reach out and be as collaborative as we can, knowing that my capacity as a single and only employee of this organization is very limited. So collaboration is very important to us. But our mission is that we cultivate a safer, more bicycle-friendly Nebraska through partnerships, education, and advocacy. And our vision is a bicycle-friendly state that makes bicycling enjoyable for everyone. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but we're very excited, committed to our mission, and excited to move forward.
Well, and Julie, one of the things that you just talked about is that your mission has to do with collaborate with partnerships and advocacy. And we know just from some of our past installments with Coffee with Jeremy that advocacy and partnerships are built by collaborative movements. So I just working with you guys and watch the way that you have engaged people in the various efforts that you've got going on and really look to create those partnerships is pretty awesome to watch. When we worked with Julie's organization, NEBA, we took them through a very similar strategic planning process, kind of like we discussed a month ago on Coffee with Jeremy when we had Pam Eatson on from the National Physical Activity Society. And so just as a reminder for that, the process that we walk through is we put a planning team together for Julie's retreat. Julie, if I remember right, there were 3 or 4 people from the board that came together on the planning team. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, I think there were 3 of us that were on the planning team.
And so we took that and really developed a 1.5 day agenda. I think it may was it a half?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
a
was
day and a half.
an evening, a Friday, like starting at 5 o'clock, and
Uh-huh.
then all day Saturday.
So it was very much following kind of a similar format. If you check our blog at sgendeavors.com/blog, you can find information about what San Diego went through with their board strategy retreat. And we kind of took that model of getting some clarity around vision the first day, and then really building off that when we came back for the second day and creating the action plans and goals that Julie's organization needed to be able to transform cycling across Nebraska as a whole. Um, Julie, what were some of the reflections for you as you were going through either the retreat itself or even the planning process? What was some of the reactions that maybe you heard from of your board members as well? What was that like going through for you guys?
Yeah, well, since we were fairly new and we had just brought on 3 brand new board members right before the retreat, and Nebraska is a very big state. We're 450 miles wide, and we have board members from, although we're most of our board members are from the Lincoln and Omaha area. We do have some folks that are from the outer parts of Nebraska. So just having us literally all in the room at the same time was a huge benefit for us. So there was a lot of team building just interpersonally that went along with our process beyond just the goals that we had laid out as a planning committee. And I know that that was one of the things that was sort of a unexpected benefit that came up quite a bit after we were done, about the benefit of having us all together and tapping into that energy. And so much so that we're planning a summer board meeting to get all back together again, because most of our board meetings are done via GoToMeeting. So that's definitely something that we recognized right away. It's a huge benefit for us. The process itself was it was very taxing. It's hard work doing this work to try to bring everybody together and find clarity, especially when you're a brand new organization and you're trying to find your way. And so it was tough. I won't lie about it, but it was, everybody at the end recognized how valuable the experience was and how glad we were to have done this so early on in the life of our organization, because it really put us on a path now to very focused action that we can do with the little bit of bandwidth that we have.
Julie, what was one of the funner activities that we did for you? Like, what was one of the more enjoyable ones?
I have it on my wall actually. When we drew, we broke up into teams and we drew out visually what does our vision look like, and it was like Pictionary or something. I should maybe try to see if I can turn this around here so you can see. I have it on the wall right here. We drew out what's our vision for our organization, and what's really great about it is that it is something that I can ponder and look at, when I'm working here, and remind myself about what it is that we're working towards, and what the bigger picture is. So
I love that. And that was actually a really neat one that we have done in a lot of subsequent board retreats, where there was really such a power that was created by the drawing of the vision statements and kind of having people go through that. So talk to us about what's happening now. What are recent developments that you've had as an organization, and how are you guys doing in terms of what come out of that retreat for you? Are
yeah,
you,
so
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We're really, we know that fundraising, and just one of our goals that we put out there was to be a sustainable organization, because as I mentioned, we are new, we're small, and so being able to really focus some of those administrative items has been really helpful. It's helped us to have that awesome strategic planning document that we created when we write the grant applications, and we can point right to that and talk about how, you know, we've gone through this process and it's really guiding our work. We're looking in terms of partnerships to look at law enforcement agencies is a big one, because we had a big win legislatively this year. For the first time in 4 years, we were able to get a bill for bicycle safety that focuses on the right-of-way, gives bicyclists the same right-of-way and crosswalks as pedestrians, which is huge for our state. And it was something that we were never able to do just as a volunteer organization. So getting that through was a huge win for us. And now we have to take that next step to partner with law enforcement organizations and county attorneys to get the word out about the new law. How do we educate law enforcement about the new law? How can we partner with them to be good citizens and promote the rights and the safety of bicyclists? So it's really been good to kind of get that first win and now take that next step and form those really great partnerships that'll sustain us moving forward in a lot of different ways.
And see, when I listen to Julie talk about that, what I think in my head is really going back to some of the training stuff that you're actually doing with us for the Nebraska Bicycling Alliance, for the Nebraska Walkable Communities Project as well. And I want to highlight that Julie has a lot of experience in complete streets, safe routes to school, some of the things that are really key tools for the bicycling movement and the pedestrian advocacy movement as they're moving those forward. And so one of the roles that Nebraska Bicycling Alliance has been playing is really very influential in the Walkable Communities Project. So Julie, you've kind of seen that process as it's developed too, and I know Brian Coyle has talked to us recently about some of the things that are going on with that project. But how has that, the way that that project is working, how has that worked for you? And what are some of the highlights for you as we've been working through the first year of the Nebraska Walkable Communities Project?
Yeah, that project has been really great for us for a variety of reasons. And even though it is focused on walking, I definitely wanted to be involved providing technical assistance because A, I do have a lot of that technical assistance from the background that you just mentioned, but B, it gives me an opportunity to get out to different cities in the state and meet with stakeholders and learn who those leaders are so that someday, hopefully, we can go back and replicate this whole process about bikeability. But what we're finding as we meet and work with these cities is that they don't want to just focus on walking, they also want to focus on biking. And so it's been great to start to talk about those issues and find out what is happening out in some of these smaller towns across Nebraska, because I think what we'll find as we grow this project is that there are probably issues happening locally that people think are just isolated issues, but perhaps we can start to identify maybe there's a pattern here that needs a state level solution, and that's where we can really come in and play a role from our organization's perspective. So we're really excited about what we're learning. I'm learning great things about data, about some of these towns, and it's just been really fascinating.
Well, and Julie, one of the things that S&G really tries to do, especially in our larger projects like the Nebraska Walkable Communities Project, is our role is really about the process and bringing that process to play for the client. How can we tap into the different perspectives in the room and really come out with a plan of action? Do you feel that as a steering committee it's really top down, or is that a nurturing the grassroots type driven process, and is that successful in Nebraska from your perspective? Because you really are a stakeholder in the outcome of what's happening. So is the process, do you think, really helping to strengthen where that's going? And if so, how?
It definitely is, because what I have learned in almost 10 years of doing this work is that a top-down approach very rarely is the way to go. And it's not until we build partnerships and collaborate and work together from the ground up to to build a movement, you'll never get the buy-in, and you'll never get the momentum going if you just try to implement something from the top down. So that's definitely the way that in my career that we've focused a lot of our work, and know that works well all across our state. So it's definitely been the right process for us. We're finding that people are really excited about learning the different concepts that we've been talking about, and people are anxious to be involved. They care about their communities, they want to make it better, and they want to play a part. So it's definitely working very well.
Excellent. Very good to hear. I like that. All right, so remember, you can get your questions in. You can ask Julie any question you want to ask. She'll always tell you if it's something she can't answer. But you can ask your questions of Julie or myself during this chat by tweeting us with the hashtag #CoffeeWithJeremy, or putting it into the chat box. So, John, I don't think I can see chats when they come in from the chat box on my side. Have we gotten anything in the chat box yet that you want to report on for us? And I'll also do my best to pull up a Coffee with Jeremy, the hashtag on Twitter. But I just wanted to check in with you and see if we have anything coming in from YouTube.
Nothing yet from YouTube, Jeremy. We've had a couple of visitors in and out, but nothing yet. I'll keep plotting and asking. So, thanks.
All right, excellent. Well, very good. And I'm pulling Twitter now as we're looking at this. Julie, so talk with us about so last week on S&G Endeavors Facebook, we were promoting this Complete Streets training. And so you've been doing this for a while. You're really familiar with Complete Streets. What made the Complete Streets training unique to Nebraska? Because that's one thing that I've been talking about with people is we really kind of developed this different approach. Maybe walk us through what we did in that training, and from your perspective as one of the people helping to facilitate that, how that went over and really what we saw come out of that. What made that different from the typical Complete Streets training?
Yeah, you know, what I really have enjoyed in this process is the steering committee's guidance as we go. So the steering committee is made up of different representatives from each of the 6 communities that we're working with. And, you know, I think when we went in, we wanted to, one of our goals was to educate about Complete Streets, because we think, you know, we're hearing that some of these cities across Nebraska are interested in implementing a Complete Streets policy. And we put together a pilot training where I prepared a presentation to sort of educate on the basic concepts of Complete Streets and what it is, and how we've implemented it in Omaha, and I played a role in that committee as well. And then we also wanted to really look closely at messaging and to help the different communities develop the messages that we know they're going to need to sell this to their neighbors and to their communities. So I put together what I thought was a presentation that was spot on and right what we needed. And really, when we got done with and we presented it to the stakeholder group as kind of a trial run, and found out that, you know, I may not have really been on the right track, or I had misunderstood sort of who the audience was or whatever it was. But it was immediate and amazing feedback to say, you know what, in our community, that particular topic won't play very well, but if we cover it this other way, it'll help. Or focus less on this and focus more on that. And that was so amazingly helpful to me to be able to go back, retool the presentation, make it stronger, better, all those good things. And so when it came time to present it in Grand Island, in the first community we did it a couple weeks ago, it was spot on, and we got tremendous feedback from the participants. So that was really great. It was helpful to me, and it made for a better outcome in the long run. Again, though, after that, we've even found other ways we can tweak things to make them even better. And so when we go out to the next community, which is Sydney, in mid-June, we'll be tweaking it even further so we can maximize our opportunity out there. and I'm looking forward to going out and presenting there as well.
Yeah, I think it's really neat actually when you do look at the grassroots part of it because, and I actually have really tried to figure out how to talk about this, and that would be a question that I might ask to our audience. Sometimes when we say grassroots driven, it turns people off because it's not a term that you hear used a lot by government agencies. And so it's more that it's being driven by the people who are at the local level, and I think the steering committee, as Brian talked about a couple episodes ago, does a really good job of plugging in that local perspective and looking at how we collaborate to come together and bring that perspective together for the project. So, Julie, I'm not seeing questions. We must just be covering
It must be.
everything that we need to cover. Um, when you think about how you are going to use collaboration to engage more people in your movement, what are some of the things that you're toying with that maybe you might even want to put out there? And what do you guys think type of ideas or something that you're looking at? I know that's a rough one, huh?
No, that's okay. No, what we really need to focus on as a state level organization is that sort of higher level, that 30,000 foot level. And so we really want to be able to build the capacity of local biped advocacy organizations to do the work that they know needs to be done in their community, and they're the ones in the best position to do it. So we're definitely taking that collaborative approach rather than swooping in and saying, hey, we're the Nebraska Bicycling Alliance and we're here to solve all your problems and here's how we're going to do it. Because that doesn't build the movement, and that doesn't accomplish the goals that we have on a higher level, on a policy or advocacy level. So definitely, going in and, as you talked about, the grassroots, getting to know and identifying where all those groups are across the state, and we're finding they're hidden in little pockets here and there in places we didn't even know about. Meeting with folks, finding out what are their issues in their towns and cities, what training do they need as advocates to make things better, what issues are they seeing that we can kind of keep an eye on, and that's the way we're going to grow the movement. It's not going to be us solving all of the problems. It's kind of the teach the man to fish sort of analogy, right? So it's definitely the backbone of everything we do.
Okay. All right. Well, we are getting close to our ending time, and I know it doesn't look like we've got any questions coming in on my side. John, are you seeing anything from your side?
Too nice of a day.
No,
Everybody's
none.
out riding their bike.
There we go. Right.
No, none as of yet, Jeremy.
Okay, so let's do this, Julie. I think so. We have other trainings that are coming up. I think we're doing with the Nebraska Walkable Communities Project is you guys at NEBA and the project itself are going to form a team to hold more of a collaborative summit next year, and we're still in the process of designing that. So that's a way that if you do live in Nebraska, you can really help to jump into that and designing that and what that would look like. Julie, I know that one of the things that Brian and I talked about the last time he was on is we were looking at some trainings, some webinar trainings in addition to the Complete Streets training. And so I know our communities are really asking for those. And one of the things that I think that is really unique about this project is we're doing a two-part series on funding. Yeah. And how do we fund those projects? So give just a really 1-minute spiel on, even if you're not from Nebraska, what do you think just from because Julie and I have really just had some initial conversations about what this two-part series is going to look like, but why is that something that maybe people might want to go and mark their calendars for?
Yeah, I think, and certainly funding for transportation projects is just, I don't know if anybody really has a handle on the whole process. It's so complex and convoluted sometimes, but we're really going to look at two different ways. We're going to look at sort of the more traditional avenues for funding that are out there, whether it's grants or funding from state Department of Roads or Transportation, as the case may be, not in Nebraska. But we're also going to take a step further, because what we're finding is a lot of times these projects are getting funded in much different ways, and it's looking at local philanthropists, it's looking at other grant opportunities and fundraising, and finding other partners that might be able to come to the table with some funding. So we're looking at some of those non-traditional ways that have fewer hoops to jump through, that allow projects to get done in a faster, more efficient manner. So I think, we'll be pulling this and examples from across the state from people who have been successful in finding some of those non-traditional funding sources and making them work for their communities.
Excellent. Well, listen, Julie, you've been a great sport. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was good hearing about how NEBA is doing since your strategic planning, and I'm really excited that S&G was able to be a part of that, and it's great working with you on the walkable community stuff as well. So we really appreciate all the support that you provide to your members and to the state, and to the work that we're helping Nebraskans do as well. So thank you again for joining. Thank you to all of you who are able to stop by and check us out. Again, tell your friends, coffeewithjeremy.tv happens every Wednesday. And if you'd like to talk collaboration with us or be featured on the show, please definitely let us know that as well. So you can also find more information. It's nebike.org, right, Julie?
That's right.
nebike.org. So be sure to check them out. If you're in Nebraska, they can always use your support in trying to raise the funding that they need to push for better bicycling and in Nebraska. And again, a big thanks to John and SG Mediagroup for helping us by coordinating the back end of coffeewithjeremy.tv. You can find more information at sgendeavors.com and sgemediagroup.com. Be sure to let us know how we can help you take your organization, create change, and seek the action that you seek to implement and to make your world a better place. Thank you so much for joining, Julie. Thanks, John. And thank you to everybody for a great show. We'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same place, or close to it.